I know how this is going to come across. Hello, tubes of you. So it is 34 degrees outside, and I am not happy about that at all, but I got myself some coffee. I got myself some salted caramel macchiato coffee, which is really good. And Aldi's they have flavored whipped cream, and I want to gatekeep, but I'm not gonna gatekeep. But this has like been one of my favorite things during the holidays. Probably not that healthy for you, but this is my vice, so I drink coffee. And I feel like I have to have my coffee in the morning. Of course, Jesus first, then coffee. But let me know what you're drinking today. Are you staying inside out of all of this freezing cold weather? Is it even more cold where you're at? Because if so, I am so sorry. Unless you like cold weather, then that's good for you. But I would rather have it be warmer, and the older I get, the more I don't like winter. And as a kid, I loved it. I looked forward to it. I think it's because we were getting out of school. Now as an adult, I want spring. I want spring to be here so bad, and I felt myself just kind of wishing away the holidays, which is not good. We shouldn't be doing that, and I'm not saying you should do that, but I have just felt like, I don't know, this year has just not been as exciting for me for Christmas. And maybe it's because I'm getting older and now I have to buy all the gifts and prep all the meals and do all the things, and you know, things just magically went together whenever you were a kid. But then you realize as an adult, wow, my mom actually did so much for us, and you don't realize it. You're just not grateful as a kid until you become an adult, and then you think, wow, sometimes I wish I could just go back to that part of being a child and just have somebody do the things for me. Someone else put up the decorations and somebody else buy all the gifts and all the good things. But let me know, are you excited for the holidays? Are you happy to put out your Christmas decor? Or are you just not really feeling it this year? Because I like it, but I'm just not really feeling it this year. But anyways, that is not what I want to talk about today. As you can see, I'm back in my car. Something just keeps being off. Every time I'm in my house and I try to record the videos, there's always just something fighting me, and I don't know if that is God telling me that, you know, that's just not for me and I need to be in my car, or if it's the enemy fighting me. But I do apologize for the last video because the lighting just kept being off, and every single clip there was just something weird about the lighting. I don't really know why, because it's not that dark in my house, but some people were complaining, not really complaining, but just telling me that I look pale and something looked off in the video. And I get that. So I'm back out here in the car, and today I want to talk about what's been on my mind lately, because I feel like as we approach the season, as we approach Christmas, things have just felt kind of off, and it's feeling a lot harder in life. And I want to say, and I hate saying this because I know how it comes across, and I know when people hear the word influencer, we all get the ick, because this is broad brushing. I'm not saying that every influencer is like this by any means, but there are a lot of influencers on the internet that have the mentality that because they are an influencer, that they deserve the world and everybody else is beneath them, and they just have a I'm better than you mentality. Now, of course, there are a lot of people who are not like that, but a lot of the main people who have rose to fame really do think they are Hollywood famous, and that's just really not the case for most YouTubers like myself. You know, most people probably wouldn't even know me from Adam. They wouldn't know that I even have this channel. Maybe a few of you on here would recognize me in public, but I am by no means famous. So I know we all get the ick when we say influencer, but I am a Christian influencer, as in where my life influences the few followers that I have. I'm not claiming to have a lot, and I have seen a lot of growth, and I'm thankful for the people that follow this channel, and I'm thankful for the people who stick around even though I mess up all the time and things just go bad all the time and my videos mess up and the enemy is just constantly fighting me. So I want to thank you that you're actually here and you're actually taking the time to watch this, and you have given me the grace to just continue in this. But I want to say being a Christian influencer is hard, and I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. And I think we as people, we tend to invalidate people's feelings about something being difficult because we go to, well, you don't have it as hard as XYZ, you know, you're not homeless, you're not living on the streets. Some people are being persecuted heavily for their faith in other countries, and yes, I do get that, and I'm not saying that my life is the hardest life by any means, but I just think that a lot of people should be a little bit more vulnerable about this, that there is a spiritual aspect to being not only a Christian but a Christian influencer, and it can be spiritually draining sometimes. And I know this is gonna sound like a rant, and this is gonna sound like, oh, woe is me, poor me, and I promise you I don't mean to come across that way, because like I said, I know that this is not the hardest job by any means. There are plenty of harder jobs out there. To any of the nurses and doctors who watch this, I know that you probably have one of the hardest jobs out there, and the things that you see, I couldn't imagine. And I pray that God would be with you, and that your mental health would, you know, stay on the right track, because I know it's got to be exhausting. And to the pastors out there who you are leading a congregation, and you have people that you have to tend to every day, and you're going to not only weddings, but you're going to funerals. Sometimes you're going to children's funerals. I know it can be mentally taxing, and I pray that God will be with you. And I think we really just need to talk about mental health, because with certain jobs and certain things that it takes a spiritual level, it can be mentally draining and spiritually draining. And I've seen that a lot with people here lately within the Christian community online, because we are going through spiritual warfare every day. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize, is that you are constantly in a battle. And I will say, I have never been this spiritually drained before in my life, and it has been great, and I love what I do, and I'm so thankful that I get to do this, and that I can make my own schedule, and I can put out 1 video a week, or I could put out 5 videos a week if I wanted to, and I'm pretty much my own boss at this point. So that part is really nice, but at the same time, I know that there are people who expect me to show up every week, and who are watching me to see, is she gonna, you know, be as on fire for God one week as she is the next. Sometimes I watch my own videos, and I try not to do that, but you'll watch your own videos, and it's either, I did really well, man, I hope I can meet that criteria again, or wow, this really sucks. This is a really awful video, and I hope I never do that again. But it can be spiritually draining. And I think just as Christians in general, when you are trying to not live a lukewarm life, it can be mentally, spiritually, and physically draining, because people don't talk about the toll that the mental effect takes on your physical health. And you know, I see that with a lot of my Christian friends who are on fire for God. It's like 1 week you're doing awesome and everything is going great, and it just seems like the world has opened up to you, and the sun is shining, and things are bright, and it's going to be a new day. And then the next week, the enemy just comes to sweep you off your feet and take everything out from under you. And I think there's such a reason for that, and it's not because God just wants to punish you. And I get into the mindset of that sometimes, of thinking, well, all of this is happening because it must be God just punishing me. And, you know, maybe because of my past, maybe because of my mistakes that I had done in the past, I'm paying for it. But the world has been stacked against us as Christians, and it's not God's design. It's not what he wanted. But the Bible does tell us that Satan is the god of this world. And God is the God of us. He created us. He created all things. But this is not God's plan initially. This is not what he wanted for us. He doesn't want us to be affected by sin. But there's a thing called free will, and because people have free will, we have to deal with the consequences of sin. And people will say, well, why wouldn't God just get rid of Satan? You know, if he knew that Satan was going to do what he did. But the thing is, there would just be another Satan. A lot of people, you know, they blame God for what the enemy does. And I see people make this statement, and I think this is such a crazy statement. I actually seen this online the other day of the devil is more moral than God. But if people honestly think that, I don't think they've looked into what Satanism actually is and what it does to people and what it does to children. Because there is such a dark world out there, and a lot of people have not even scratched the surface of what is out there. They don't really know the evil that Satan has put in this world. And yes, the Old Testament is hard to read. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna put on a front and say that I just read it and I glide through things and it's just so easy for me, and I never question God, and I never think, well, God, what in the world, why would you do that? Because there's a lot of hard topics in the Bible. There's a lot of difficult things to get through, and I wish that I wasn't an overthinker. I wish I could be like some people and I would just gloss through it and never have a thought about it and be like, okay, you know what, God said it, so it's so. But my mind doesn't work like I want it to. My mind overthinks, and I think that's a part of having ADD. Because if you haven't noticed, I have a touch of that, and I think that's why I ramble so much, and people online seem to love it, and people offline do not like it as much. But I'll sit there and I'll think, why is the Old Testament so hard to read? But then I see people and they'll say it's because God is a moral monster, and that is not the case. God is good, and he wants what's best for us. And I think sometimes God puts those things in there to test us and to see, are we going to study it out? Are we going to search out scripture? Or are we just gonna harden our hearts towards God? But if we ask the Holy Spirit, I do believe he'll help us get through whatever it is, whatever question, because every question I have come to in the Bible, every question that I've ever had, every time that I have gotten angry with God because I read something and thought, God, why would you do that? Every single time, God has answered my question without fail. And I have realized that God knows way more than I do. I am very insignificant, and I seen a video and I wish that I would have saved it, but I didn't. If I was a little bit smarter, I would have saved that video so I could show you guys. But it was a woman, and it zoomed in to her eye, and it was showing the universe and just how the universe came together, and it just made me realize how small I am. And yet God still cares about me, the one who created the galaxies, the one who created so much more than we could ever even think of. He cares about us, and that's not a bad God. That's not a moral monster. Yes, evil things happen, but Jesus weeps over those things. He doesn't like it. It's not a fun thing for God. God is not just looking to get us all the time. And I think that's where people mess up, is they think that God, he's just out to get us all the time. And I've been there, so I'm not speaking from a holier than thou. I've never been there. I've never questioned God, because I would be lying, and I don't want to lie. But every time without fail that I have thought those things, God has showed up, and he has showed me that his ways are better. And the enemy has gotten me to a state of being emotional, and honestly just sometimes being a brat, okay? I don't have a better way of saying it, but I just look back and I'm like, you know, why did I think that? Why did I act that way? But the enemy can mess with our emotions. And sometimes it is just us, and it's us being emotional, especially as women. You know, I know men will comment on this, and be respectful, please, but I know the men are going to agree with me that we're just super emotional, and I think we were wired that way. I don't try to be emotional. Sometimes I hate my own emotions, but it can get in the way. And the enemy wants to use that to try and get us to look away from God and look at other things and not focus on what really matters. But then on the other hand, I think that a lot of people tend to suppress emotions so much that it ends up being unhealthy. And we see this with people who end up taking their lives. People will say, well, why were they so happy? They appeared so happy on the outside. And I think that people suppress their emotions because they don't want to seem emotional to the world, but then they don't have any outreach. And Christians, sometimes we can drop the ball on this. Whenever somebody does try to reach out, we tend to dismiss their hardship because, well, your hardship is not as hard as my hardship. But that shouldn't be the case. And someone once told me, because I was under this mentality that I have no right to complain about anything in my life because people have it harder. And someone told me, well, yeah, people might have it harder, but that doesn't invalidate that you are going through a struggle right now. And we need to be like that with people and let them know it's okay. It's okay to be in your feelings. It's okay to not be perfect. And, you know, it's okay to be a Christian and struggle with mental health. It's okay to go through depression. It's okay to not be on top of the world all the time. I'm probably going to have to edit that out. There was a person walking by with their dog and they just paused. It was a little bit distracting. But I want to tell you that if you're feeling that way, if you feel like the world is stacked against you, if you feel like things are falling apart, you're not crazy and you're not wrong, because the world is falling apart and the odds are stacked against you. And I know that might not seem so positive and you're thinking, well, great, thank you for telling me that, because that doesn't help me at all. And why on earth would I stick around and be a Christian if I know it's going to be harder? But I want to tell you, even though that seems so negative, I hope it validates your feelings and it lets you know that, you know, it's okay and there's nothing wrong with you. You're not just a messed up person and you're not just a messed up Christian. I think many of us Christians go through that. We just kind of put on the front and go through it. But the reason why we stick around, the reason why we're still a Christian, even though the odds are stacked against us, is because we have a blessed hope. This world is so little in comparison to eternity. And even though we're going through sufferings, we suffer like Christ suffers. This will be over. And I think it'll be over soon, because as I look around and I just see all the things going on collectively, I know I don't want to set dates, because I know a lot of people set dates about the rapture. And, you know, I've done plenty of videos on that and how that's problematic. But I do think we can look at the signs of the seasons and say that we are close. We're close to an end. And it is burdensome. Is that a word? It puts a lot of burden on us because we want people to be saved, and we probably all have unsaved family that we're just praying that, you know, they would let Christ rule and reign in their lives. And it does put a burden on us right now. But when we get to heaven, we're going to understand so much that we didn't understand now. We're going to look back and say, wow, that was such a short time of my life. And I pray that every one of us that is praying for a loved one to be saved, when we do go to heaven, they'll meet us there. And I believe that the reason why God is letting us go through this trial, this tribulation, not the great tribulation, but we are going through a form of man-made, self-inflicted tribulation. Now, don't get me started on the great tribulation, because that's a totally different topic. But I believe that the reason why the Lord is letting us go through this right now, why he hasn't just taken us home, is not because he's an evil, vicious God and he just wants to punish us, but I think it's because there are more souls to be saved. There are more people who are going to get to the kingdom of heaven, and the Bible tells us that when somebody gets saved, all of heaven rejoices. So that lets you know God cares about souls. He cares about people, and he's giving them chance after chance after chance after chance to choose him. And he's a long-suffering God. He's not gonna just give up. And he knows the end from the beginning, so he sees something we don't see. So as Christians, we just need to hold on, because time is running out. Time is getting short. And because of that, I believe that the veil is getting thinner and more demonic things are going to begin to happen. And it is going to be harder for us. I hate to say that. I wish I could get on here and tell you that life is going to get easy and you're going to reach a peaceful moment in life where it's going to be heaven on earth. But I don't believe that at all, so I can't say that. I do believe it's going to get harder. And it's separating the wheat from the tares. And for those who hang on, the Bible says, don't let anybody steal your crown. We've got to hang on. Don't let the enemy steal your crown, because that's exactly what he wants to do. And if you go through all of this suffering and you lose Christ, then he wins. And we cannot let that happen. You can't let that happen. Whoever's watching this right now and you're just feeling like giving in and throwing in the towel, you cannot let the devil win. That's exactly what he wants. And then you went through all the suffering in vain and for nothing. So hold on. Don't let the enemy win. Keep your foot on his neck, as some people say. There is a better day coming. And it might not be in this life, but there is a better day coming, and it's coming quickly. Pray for those who aren't saved, that they would get to know Jesus, because I think the quicker that everybody who is meant to serve Jesus, everybody who will choose Jesus, the sooner they do, the sooner we can get out of this awful place.